Well, hello. As you mentioning, I'm Andres Pineda, a mobile developer, and I love and I believe in open source. And this is what about. Today, we're gonna see for those first timers, probably they're scared about how to contribute, how to get into a project and get involved into what open source is. I will do my best that later today you will be doing some contribution. So I'm old enough, probably I don't see that old, but I'm old enough to tell you that when I started working in C Sharp, this is how we used to work. It was like you need some functionality, and you look in, probably it was not even Google. It was probably Yahoo, Netscape, and you try to find a library that used some functionality that you wanted to bring in. Probably not because you don't know how to do it, but because you needed to do it quick. For the same reason that we use open source right now. It doesn't mean that you don't know how to do it, probably most of the time. So, but the problem with this scenario is that you were bringing a Trojan horse probably to your project because of you only have the DLL and you couldn't see what was inside. That was a problem, and many companies didn't want developers to go this way because of what I just mentioned. It might bring some security issues, and you don't know what was happening. You have the library for C Sharp, .NET 1.1, but then .NET 3.1 came out, and it was not compatible because it was not backward compatible. So you didn't know, you didn't have access to the developer. It was an issue. It was an issue. Hopefully for us, things change, and this package manager, in our case, Nuget, came over and started providing with a centralized way of getting the packages. So now you have a place specifically where you can go and ask for certain functionality that you needed. And but it was not only for C#, it was a movement that it doesn't matter if you do Node.js, JavaScript, or you do Ruby, or you do Android, or you do iOS, all of them were doing the same. But the most important is that this new structure, bro, is the fact that they all were around GitHub. So right now, it was not only you were getting the DLL or whatever was the package, you were also having access to the source code. You were able to see what the developer was doing when he gave that functionality to you. You were even able to provide with feedback to the developer. And more even, you were able to add some functionality and fix bugs. This is nice. I mean, this is the way that something that we were looking, and we got it. But the problem is that open source comes with responsibility, and sometimes you don't want to pay that, and pay that means that now it's not only you getting the DLL and forgetting. It means that as your responsibility, if there is any issue with the library, you need to go to the GitHub and provide with feedback. It's like it's not working, but it's not only open and say it's not working. It's as a responsibility, you need to open an issue and say, give the steps so the developer or the developers, because sometimes it's more than one, can get your feedback and work towards there. If you're even nicer, you would take the feedback that you just created and fix it, because that's what I'm expecting. I mean, when that guy, that girl, took that library and put it out there for you to use it, it came also that you were able to provide a fix. So in GitHub now, you're able to find many different nice projects. Probably we are using, this is just some of the projects that I am part of and that I do contribution. So you have reactive UI, you have Xamarin Form, you have Xamarin Mac, Xamarin iOS, Xamarin Android, you have Uno platform. Because as we have heard the whole day today, we have been talking about open source. When Miguel de Casa was talking about the 1990s, he was talking about open source and that he was betting on it. And time has shown that he was right. And all the people that were betting on open source by then are seeing the results now. And it's not open source in the 90s meant that you were using Linux. If you can say, I mean, I use open source. It was in a Linux computer, but I use open source now with Microsoft, with Mac. It doesn't matter the operating system. Things has changed. And so talking about Uno, if you go to the GitHub and you Uno platform/Uno, you can see the source code. You can iterate. You can see the pull request. You can see, as Francois was saying earlier, Jeffrey is always there. So if you open an issue, he might come back to you and say, oh, why are you opening this? Probably this is not an issue. This is a problem that you are having. But this is not about open source. But let's say that there are many ways for us to contribute in open source. And one way is, okay, is coding. Let's face it, they're humans. They don't have, they have limited times in a day. Even the 24 hours is no longer enough for our developers. We all know that, right? So they don't have enough time to fix all the issues. You saw, Uno Platform is a whole company, and we have 323 issues. And it's a whole company behind it. That means that they need help. We need help. And so let's say that we want to contribute, and the best way that we can contribute is by giving code, giving time of my time to make the product better, the product that I'm using, the product that I love. If you love it, let's give it some time. And how can we contribute to code? Well, the easiest way that you can have is that when you go to the repository, you can have the issues. Why didn't it change? I need help. I need to switch. Who can help me switching? I'm sorry. And show. I'll have to do this. I'm sorry. All right. So I got it here. It's just, if you come to the Uno platform and you go to the issues bar, repositories have these night tags. The tag that you might want to look for is good first issue. You go to that tag and it will give you a list of issues that the maintainers know that are good for people that have probably never been involved in open source, that they are easy enough, because that is good about this. You don't need to be the master. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to be a genius to help this. What you're doing right now is something that could help make an open source library be better. So if you use this tag, good first issue, you will get those lists, those issues that they believe that you can work. But there's something else. They don't throw you in the wild. In the open source projects in GitHub and the maintainers, they will guide you, because there are some steps that you need to follow in order to contribute. You need to know a little bit of Git, because you need to fork, you need to clone, and if you're not familiar with this, you might be confused, you might be scared. Oh my gosh, how am I gonna do that? The good thing is that there are people in the projects that they are there and willing to help. This is a personal story. I'm part of the reactive UI, and I always wanted to help, And there was this there was one day that the reactive UI maintainers, they put on Twitter, oh, we have some good for first timers. And I said, I want to go, but there's many things that I don't know. And there was this person, part of the maintainers, thank you, Glenn Waxon, if you're watching this, thank you, that he guided me over how to do from the cloning, from the fork cloning, creating the repo, creating the branch, and creating everything that I needed to make it possible that I fix the issue. So you will find that in open source solution. Another way for you to provide with code is by adding samples. Let's say that you're here, so far you like what you have heard. Do you like what you have heard so far? I hope you do, because I'm hooked. And you go home tonight and you say, okay, I want to try Uno, and then you do a sample, and you go to the documentation and you don't see the sample. So that's a way that you can contribute, because that sample that you created might be helpful for somebody that haven't ever touched Uno before. So you can contribute with code fixing issues. You can contribute with code adding samples, but you can also contribute adding nice documented way of producing errors. Let's say that you found an edge case error, and if you create an issue with all the steps that are required to reproduce that, that's a contribution. It's a contribution that maintainers will love to have. So as I said before, we have coding, but we also have documentation. And documentation in GitHub is even easier, because you don't even need to clone the repository. I don't know why I opened this, because it's going to be also in the browser. Let's say that you go to the documentation page, which is usually documentation is also part of GitHub now with some technologies. Let's say that you are here and you are seeing the guidelines for pull request, because this is very important. When you do a pull request, there are some guidelines that you need to follow, but usually the person that is going to be guiding you for your first pull request is going to tell you everything you need. But let's say you're reading here and you notice that there is an error there. There was not supposed to be this. That was supposed to be part of the same. So if you come improve this doc, as simple as clicking there, it's taking you here. You click on edit. You remove what you see is the error. You click on saving, issue on doc, on UnoConf 2019, propose file change. That's it. You just created, GitHub for you created a branch and created a pull request out of the branch with the changes that you just proposed. It's an easy peasy. You didn't even have a clone for nothing. It was so easy that that anybody can do it. And that's what I want. That's what I'm looking for. That's what we want. We want anybody to help the documentation. So in documentation, you can fix these issues. You can add new documentation, but something really, really good that I find is that documentation we can translate. Because we live in Montreal. Here, everybody speaks English, even though it's Quebec, it's French. But wouldn't it be nice that this documentation could be read by somebody that peut-être ne comprend pas anglais? Or let's say, for my people that came from the Caribbean for the conference, que ellos puedan entender esto y que ellos sepan cómo utilizar Uno. So that's nice. It's like it's inclusion using languages. Just by using a different language, you can have more people in your community, and that's what we're looking for, and that's what we're expecting, and that's what we want for you. So let's say that you can contribute in code, you can contribute documentation, opening issue, and there's another way that you can be a sponsor of a project. It's not a case, probably not a case for Uno. Uno doesn't need your money. I'm just kidding. But there are also other open source projects over there that might need you to be a sponsor. And yeah, open source is easy, but unfortunately cannot be done alone. Open source needs to be done in community, because it doesn't matter if they have 10 people working in a single product. They will have many issues. And if we want to keep the product that we love, that we use alive, we need to be part of it in a way. So I hope that after today, you are encouraged to participate in any open source library that you use. Can be Uno, can be Xamarin. If you do JavaScript, can be any JavaScript library, anything. But be part of the change, because open source is not the future. Open source is the present. Thank you.